Looking for a portrait-length lens for your Fujifilm camera body? Well, don't overlook the 50mm f2. It offers a lot of advantages to enthusiasts like us and should be considered if you're looking for a portrait-length lens. So let's check out some of the advantages. Hi, Peter Charles here of Focus for Life Photography, and today I'm going to do my first lens review. And I'll make a couple of notes about this first so I don't have to repeat them for the future videos. But I'm coming at equipment reviews from the standpoint of an enthusiast, not a professional, not somebody who's in the industry, not somebody who makes their living at photography or photography equipment reviews, whatever they might want to do. And as an enthusiast, I'm interested in certain things that will be similar to what professionals are interested in, and other things perhaps less important to a professional, but more important to me as an enthusiast. So today we're going to be looking at the Fujifilm 50mm portrait length prime lens. And we're going to look at it from the perspective of somebody who is going to buy this lens, take some pictures. It could be a family, it could be friends, could be events, it could might be a bit of portraiture. And how practical, how useful, and how good is it for that kind of photography? Now, the one thing I won't be talking about is things like MFT curves, I should say, corner sharpness, and all that kind of good stuff. There's plenty of other YouTube channels that deal with all that technical stuff. I'm not saying it's not important, it's just that I'm not going to cover it. I'm just going to deal with the things that are important to us, which is its overall sharpness, contrast, color, handling, which is often a neglected part in these reviews, is how well does it handle, how easy is it to get a good photograph out of this lens versus something that might be, very, very good lens, but because it's a bit fiddly to use, you get more misses than you otherwise might. So let's get started with the 50mm review. And I've got three sets of examples here. One is a little assignment I did as a charity assignment for the local county. They had 2 summer camps for kids somewhere in that 10 to 13 range. And they were putting on a play from the Minions series. And they asked me to go take some photos. Now, in this particular situation, I was in 2 different gymnasiums. Lighting was iffy. I think it was a mixture of halogen and window light. I couldn't control the lighting. I couldn't control the background. Most of the time, it's more like photojournalism than portraiture because I was just, moving after the children and getting what I could get. So I wasn't able to really choose my background all that much. I could sometimes manage what they were doing, and other times I just had to go with what was offered. I got very, very few misses, and when I did get a miss, it was usually on me because there would be 2 people in the shot, and I was picking the wrong one for the focus. I wasn't paying attention to what the camera was picking out for the focusing, and that was my fault. But, when, the focus was on the right person, it was wonderful. Dead on, accurate, no misses at all in focusing. The most I got for problems, as I say, where the makeup artist was doing with the child, I wanted the child and ended up with the makeup artist because I wasn't paying attention. I got a few camera shake problems too, which is on me again, because neither the camera nor the lens is image stabilized. So I had to pay attention to my shutter speed because I wanted my ISO as low as possible and a shutter speed that I can get away with. There was a bit of motion blur at times too. The other thing I'll say about all of these shots, except for the last 2, is that they're straight out of the camera. All right, I got shot in RAW, converted them to JPEG, dropped them in this video. So there's no manipulation at all, no post-production editing of any kind. Obviously, in some of these shots, I would do some cropping, work with the shadows, do some other things. But I think, what's the point of doing a lens review when you've massaged the photo? You want to see what it looks like straight out of the camera. So that's what I've done. So let's get started with the summer camp. Now, this first picture what I particularly like about this one is the fact that this lens lets me work at portrait length distances, but relatively close to the kids. So I was able to interact with them more easily than I would been if I was, laid back. I was using this 90 millimeter, and I was way back there somewhere. Would I've got the same result? Probably not, because I would have lost the connection between me and the kids. This was shot at f4 because I wanted a bit of depth of field, but I did want to blur out the background, and as you can see, that worked. Okay, in this next one, again, it's f4. It was a group of kids. I wanted to blur out the background. Like I said, a very little control of background. This is the gymnasium. You get what you got. Obviously, in this shot, I'd work on the shadows, but again, lovely sharpness, a good working distance from me and the kids. It works very fast because those expressions are fleeting. They're not there very long. Those kids are ready to move on. So, they've got other things they want to be doing, and the boring photographer is occupying their time. So you've got to be able to move fast, and this is what this lens does. The AF on it is quick and accurate, and you're not messing around waiting for it to go zit. I mean, this is the old 1.2 56, and it's a lovely lens, but boy, that AF can be a bit slow and it can hunt. Yes, I know they got a new one out, but I've got the old one here. And so when I'm working with kids, the 50 is the way to go, not my old 56. Okay, especially like this one, the edge lighting on the boy's face. He's showing off his ray gun to the minion. And again, you've got a lot of contrast in the background, which the lens handled without any sense of any kind of flare whatsoever, with all that bright light coming from behind. Again, I just asked her to point to the gun and have him show the gun. Bang, got the shot. There's only one shot here. When I'm showing you these, there's not like 20 shots, and I picked the best one. There's one shot of this group, and that's how I was working. It was like, bang, get the shot, move on. And so this is one and done. Actually, they all are one and done, basically. Very little repetition. Okay, this one is shot at f2. The others have all been at f4 to get a little bit of depth of field. I didn't want to go much beyond f4 because then I would start getting a sharper, more noticeable background. Here I just wanted her closest eye nice and sharp, and the rest to sort of just fade away, and it does that beautifully. I didn't want the makeup artist to be too in the picture. I wanted it to all be about the child, her hair, her ear, her eye, and f2 delivered that for me. I think what's interesting about this is I can get that isolation with f2, and this is f1.2 in this lens. Yes, it could isolate a little bit more, but the point is f2 on this 50 will allow you to really zero in on a detail that you want to catch, and it will do it. Okay, in our local scene, we've got a commercial fishery in Port Dover, and I like to go down there on dull days because it sort of works with the atmosphere of commercial fishing boats. And got a few shots down there. They're a little bit of fun with the dog tangling up the other fellow. It's really a dull, dreary day, but it's still rendered nice colors. As I say, that's a single shot. I just saw the dog, got the shot, moved on. So this one is one of my favorites. Very subdued, with that very dull day, very subdued colors, refuse, garbage, the detritus of commercial fishing thrown away in a garbage bin. And I wanted that effect, and the dullness and the metal, the rusty metal, and the colors, the muted colors in here. And yet everything there is a richness to those colors, which I like, and it's brilliantly sharp. Okay, these two photos are from our club meetings. We have a couple of models come in. We rent this old mansion, and the models dress up in steampunk costumes, and we, 24 photographers crammed into this house with two models. It gets chaotic, and you got to move very quickly, work fast, and you can't take up too much space. Because when I was taking these shots, I had half a dozen photographers waiting for me to get it done, and they're like right there. And if I'm too far away from the model, there's always a chance somebody might accidentally walk right through my shot without realizing it. So I had limited working space and I had to work quickly. And again, this is where this lens came into its strengths, is it handles so well, so easily, so quickly. I can get these kinds of shots off. And I'm just focusing here on the eyes, nothing else. So here we got this shot of the model, and I didn't want that wrist jewelry she had showing up too much. I didn't want to be too bright and in your face. So working with f2, I just got the eyes. The jewelry blurs out and is much less noticeable. Worked like a charm. So a few things I can say in terms of the advantages of the lens. Small, lightweight. It's a low cost compared to others. I mean, compared to this beastie, it's quite a lot less money. It focuses very quickly, and it focuses very quietly, which is very good for street photography. It will, respond quickly to, small movements in the focusing ring. If you have your manual focusing set to linear focus from infinity to about 3 meters in manual focus, it's a quarter turn. Once you get beyond 3 meters, it's Wheel of Fortune. But from infinity to 3 meters, when you're on linear focus, it snaps in quite nicely with just a quarter turn is all you need for manual focusing, which is quite nice. The aperture ring has a nice firm click. It's not too stiff, but you're not going to move it by accident, which is a good thing when you're working quickly too. If they're rather loose, you can quite easily move your aperture ring by mistake. Been there. The other thing, as I say, is it's unobtrusive. I mean, if you saw this, on the street with this camera and this lens, you would not think of it as being particularly threatening or a photographer coming at you. And if I take the lens hood off, it's even less intimidating to look at. So if you want an unobtrusive lens compared to, say, this beastie on the camera, it is a less intimidating looking lens, which can be important when you're working with family. You get that great big lens up on a camera and, people are sort of going, oh, what's going on here? It's not particularly intimidating or shouting photographer. A couple of other things I could add about it, getting into the technical realm, but really for the enthusiast, what matters is it's relatively low cost, it's small, it's light, it handles well, it focuses very quickly, very few, if any, misses. The misses are usually operator error. You can work great with children, family, that sort of thing. Your working distances being a 50 millimeter, which is a 77, I think, equivalent, or 76 equivalent in full frame, means that you can back off a little bit and focus in close to your subject, but you're not, way back there. If you're working in a house, for example, a typical room, you don't want to be working with a 90 millimeter. You want something like this that's going to enable you to work at relatively close ranges, but still deliver a portrait perspective. So it works for you in that way. Also, the fact that enthusiasts are not usually as proficient with working with people for portraitures and working with professional models, that sort of stuff. So being a little closer to your model allows you to keep more of a connection with the model. If you get too far back, because we're not pros at this, we can easily, lose that connection with the model, and we're not getting the result we want out of it. Whereas if you're a little closer, you're more comfortable, you're able to work more easily. You can carry on an easy conversation with the model to get what you want. I mean, with this 90, I'd be way back there, and that would make me feel uncomfortable because I feel like I'm shouting at the model, and it wouldn't make me feel comfortable at all. So the working distance, I think, is one of the big aspects of this, together with the perspective and the fact that f2 is enough of a wide open aperture to give you shallow depth of field when you need it. And it's really sharp at f2. You don't have to worry about it being fuzzy at f2. It'll deliver the results. And you've seen a couple of f2 shots here that are just beautifully sharp. So that's basically it. I would highly recommend it. And I've got a little quick story to tell you. I bought one of these when it first came out. And then I bought my 56 a while later, and I thought, I don't need a 50 now. I've got the 56. So I sold my 50 like an idiot. Started using the 56 on the street, and I went, I don't like this. I mean, this is a good studio lens, but it's not a street lens. So what do? Go buy another 50. I learned the hard way. This is a great lens, and you can own both if you feel like doing that. Because they do behave differently, they work differently, and they're good lenses for different situations. The 56, lovely studio lens. On the street, no. This, I think, from the enthusiast standpoint, you're really, got the right kind of portrait lens for the type of photography most of us do, which is things like family and friends and acquaintances, and you're grabbing shots when you can get them. You can't control the background, you can't control the lighting, you take what you can get, and this is the kind of lens that will deliver good results in that kind of environment. So if you're looking for a portrait lens that is not expensive and will deliver the goods, the 50, Fujifilm 50. So check it out. Cheers.